Hi all, and thanks for listening. Nimco Ali, a well-known anti-FGM campaigner and victim with 12,000 followers who's appeared in TV interviews, leaves me dumbfounded. I first heard of her during the BBC Three's free speech discussion on male circumcision.
Layla Hussein and Nimco Ali, who are from Daughters of Eve, who campaign against FGM very strongly. They're brilliant ladies, and I spoke to them about it because having a child and speaking about male circumcision, and actually what they had said is, even though it is not the same, they personally don't think that it should happen to males or females.
Sounds fair, doesn't it? Well, I recently discovered an interview she had on HARDtalk. It was fascinating to hear the other woman reject the term mutilation. I inevitably found myself agreeing with Nimco's initial response. That is, until she said something quite bizarre.
Even for an adult woman?
Even for an adult, and even when it even comes to things like labiaplasty, I completely see those as GBH. So I think that there can never be consent to an act of violence such as FGM.
Labiaplasties are certainly not uncommon. Neither are other genital modifications that both women and men choose for themselves. If one cannot consent to such cosmetic surgery, can they consent to any other type of cosmetic surgery? Breast implants, nose jobs, nip and tucks, tattoos, ear, tongue, nose and navel piercings, all could be classed as forms of bodily harm, couldn't they? Major difference being is that they requested it and consented to it. It was elective. Anyhow, I tweeted my thoughts. Nimco Ali stated that an adult woman cannot consent to labiaplasty as it would amount to GBH. So does that apply to all cosmetic surgery? Next day, she appears on my feed without me contacting her. I was pleasantly surprised. She said, "No Dave, just FGM, which labiaplasty is." Was this an answer to my question? Sort of, but it still seemed very odd, so I responded. Thanks. So they are free to cut or modify any other part of their body, just not their genitals. Is that what you're saying? Waiting with bated breath to see how she was going to answer this, and this is what I get. I thought it was a legitimate question. Was she messing with me? I wanted to know more about her opinions, so I had a look at her tweets and discovered that she refuses to call non-therapeutic male circumcision male genital mutilation. In fact, even though she claims to be against it, the only tweets where she mentions that is when she's telling people that FGM is worse than male circumcision. Does she even think MGM carried out with rusty knives exists? Of course she does. Here are some nasty images to prove it, so look away now if you have a weak stomach. When I encounter people trying to separate FGM and MGM, I show them the definition from the World Health Organization. And anyone with a brain and some intellectual honesty will see several types that could justifiably be considered equivalent to and less severe than male circumcision, MGM.
I looked at the definition and it said mutilation comes from the Latin mutilare, to cut off. The definition is to deprive of a limb or an essential part of the body, to maim. Now, if we are getting detailed about what happens during the cutting operation, it would seem to me to fit that description of mutilation.
So, if the foreskin is not considered an essential part, we could strike out most, if not all, types of FGM. Soraya Mire, another anti-FGM campaigner, understands that both are mutilation and a violation of one's own sexuality and bodily integrity.
I'm a human rights activist. The thing that really shocked me when I came to America was the reaction I got when people find out what was happening in Somalia, Sudan, Ethiopia, those parts of the world, Egypt, about female genital mutilations, and people were horrified, they were shocked, they were angered. It was not even a feminist standpoint, but it was the rights of the child, taking her humanity and integrity. But behind closed doors, they were mutilating their own young, boys, sons. And it's everyday ritual here, but people don't see it as a ritual. But to me, I would see it as ritual because it's the same thing to me, because mutilation is mutilation.
Calling consensual body modifications mutilation is certainly an opinion I can respect, but I am not for taking people's right away to choose for themselves. And as for Nimco's attitude towards me, if you're a human rights campaigner unwilling to help others understand your point of view, don't be a human rights campaigner. Quick update, I was going to end the video there, but when I went to upload it I noticed some tweets that Nimco had left. Let's take a quick look. If removing parts from male genitalia makes cleaning easier, then the same applies to females. That is a logical assertion, is it not? So she hates men and I'm a dickhead for trying to understand her point of view? I would like to remind Nimco that cutting the genitals of girls has been outlawed in this country since 1985. That's 32 years ago. We are still doing this to boys in broad daylight in so-called clinics. The NSPCC, they don't care. The Children's Commissioner doesn't care. Women Inequalities doesn't care. Naturally. We are talking about removing the most erogenous tissue on a boy's body without valid medical need and without his consent. Anyone that's extensively researched the issue of child genital cutting, yet insists that only females can be mutilated, I would say there's a good chance they're a man-hater. Thanks for watching the video. I will leave a link below to the interview that Nimco had on HARDtalk. It's worth watching.